Hey guys, welcome to my new series, League of Learning. The goal of this video is not to be a champion guide, but more of a champion recommendation. I'm going to give you an overview of the champion, but I'm not going to tell you how to play it or anything like that. Just really their skills and why their skills make them better than other champions. I wanted to make this series because when I was a young League player, I didn't know much about which champions were good and where they went. So a low elo guide for which champs are good would have really helped me out a lot. So that's why I want to make this. The goal for these videos is to show which champ is good in which role right now, as well as why they are good in general. I'll be picking champs while keeping in mind the audience I want to reach, which is lower elo players. So I'm not going to recommend, like Aurelia or Riven, something that's a little bit more complex. And I'll be trying to do these every patch. So some stuff might look the same. Maybe they don't nerf a certain champion. It's probably going to stay in the League of Learning video. But I will probably address it again and tell you why it's good still now. Yeah, it's going to be for every single role. So let's get right into our first champion. So our first champ is Urgot. And the reason I want to recommend Urgot to you is he is a big lane bully with a simple concept based around his shotgun legs. So if you don't know, this is his passive. He's got 6 legs, all of them, when you auto attack, do a little bit of extra damage. Now they do have to recharge, but that makes for great trading in lane. So all you really got to do is just walk a circle around your enemies. So moving from his passive to his Q, it's a simple skill shot, pretty much just point and click skill shot. Lands right at the champion and will slow them. It has 0.7 scaling, so really good for trading. But the big ability is his W. So his W is, it'll slow him. He can't move as well, but he gets to auto attack and not have it be interrupted while moving. So if you land that Q or his E, which I'll talk about shortly, it applies Purge, which lets his W target champions specifically. Now, if you miss those abilities, unless you're right on top of the enemy champ, you might be hitting minions if there are any around. So you really got to land that Q or E, or even his ultimate. But you got to land one of them, or else that W is not going to be targeting anything. You're going to be maxing this ability first, because at level 9 it becomes toggleable. So that means you can just leave it on, turn it off when you want, turn it back on, whatever you need to do with it. It's all good. Moving on to his E, it's a dash and it shields him, but if you hit an enemy champ with it, he picks up the champ and throws it over his shoulder, stunning them slightly after they land. Obviously, that's going to be great for your shotgun legs. You slow them with your Q, you turn on your W, you hit them with the first 3 legs in front, you dash into them, pick them up, slam them behind you, you're popping off with the back 3 legs now. Now they're low. What do? What's your finishing move? It's your ult. We all know it, but if you don't, here's what it is. It's a skill shot, and when it hits an enemy, if they're below 25% health, or if they become below 25% health while the ultimate is still in them, Urgot reels them in, grinds them up, and devours them. Kills them right there, executes them, and it also releases a fear to anybody around him. So he's really great in team fights. Obviously, being able to execute somebody like that, whoever you hit, reeling them in, killing them, putting out that fear, really good, as well as his tankiness as a champion, but the ability to deal so much damage with those shotgun legs. Late game, those shotgun legs are on about 2-second cooldown, I believe, 5 to 2 second cooldown, so that's just a bunch of extra damage later game. And again, really great team fighter, really great lane bully, and yeah, I recommend picking him up for an aggressive top laner. Moving right along, we have Yorick. Now, this champion was really popular back, I think, in 9.7. He's fallen off the map a little bit, but still very strong. So if you don't know, Yorick's passive is Shepherd of Souls. This summons his little ghouly boys. So you can wait for every 12th minion kill, or 6th or 2nd, depending on your level, or any minion killed by Yorick's Q. Now his Q, it's a little bit like a Nasus Q, but with a different spin on it. His next basic attack will have a little bit of extra range, a little bit of extra damage, and it heals him based off of his health. If he's below 50% health, it heals him for even more. Now, if there are 3 other graves, so if you've used this move on 3 other minions, you can cast it and you will raise up those little soul boys called little Mistwalkers. So after your 3rd minion kill with that Q, you can raise the dead there and get those little boys running around. You are going to want to be maxing this ability first. Moving on to Yorick's W is the little wall, the pain in the ass everyone hates to deal with. It sits there, it's got 2 health, you gotta auto attack it twice, and if you're a champ that does not auto attack well, you're gonna have a bad time. So it really helps those ghouls get in there, beat up your opponent, and it makes your E skill shot much easier to land. Your E being Morning Mist. This is his big damage move. If he hits you with it, it'll deal 15% of the target's current health, and then make all his little minions jump on you and attack you. You're slowed, and then those minions are hasted, so they will all get movement speed. Yorick himself also gets movement speed, which again can be real scary. He's running at you with that Q. He's got his Maiden of the Mist there, his misty little boys running at you. They're just tearing you a new one. You're getting drained to your life, and all of a sudden, you're dead. So, very important to land that skill shot. Lastly, his ult. If you don't know what the Maiden of the Mist is, then you're going to find out right now. It's his big ghouly girl. He's going to summon her and 4 Mistwalkers. And now, after the patch on 9.7, they will follow you around and help you out. If you reactivate the ability, Maiden will go off on her own in her own lane, kind of split push for you. She's got quite a bit of health here. Overall, the reason I pick Yorick as an aggressive top laner here is because of his little minions here. They can get in there, do a lot of damage. His wall makes him a great laning opponent. You throw that around the enemy, you chuck your E at them while you have some ghouls up, they all jump in, you start hitting people with your Q, you're gaining a lot of life back, you're dealing a lot of damage, and guess what? You've immobilized the enemy top laner. Now, he's not good into people with dashes and leaps. Things like Gnar or Riven, they can obviously jump out of his wall, which is a big staple in his lane bully, the reason he's such a lane bully. So that is something you want to keep in mind when picking Yorick. Obviously, you've got the Urgot pick we just talked about against more mobile players, locking them down with that CC that slow Urgot has. But this guy, against E-mobile top laners, he's going to trap him in that wall, summon Maiden, throw the mist on him, and they're going to get their soul sucked out. Easy as that. So again, recommending Yorick as a great top lane bully. Moving on to our simpler defensive top laners. Nasus. I love this champion. Not very good at him myself, but he is a great champion to pick up. Starting off with his passive, he's got tons of sustain with it. Easy said and done. Nasus permanently has 12, 18, and then 24% lifesteal, obviously based on that level. Obviously, that makes your lane sustain great. Moving right along, we've got Nasus's Q. This is his bread and butter. This is what makes the champion good. So for the next 10 seconds, Nasus has a little bit of extra range, a little bit of extra damage, and obviously if he kills that minion or truck creep, the large minion there, he will get 3 stacks on little creeps, and he'll get 12 stacks on the large minion and or large monster, and of course, champions. You're going to want to be maxing this ability first. Moving down to my most hated ability on Nasus is his Wither. Not a skill shot, just a nice point and click, slowing them for 35% at level 1, and growing all the way up to 47% at level 1. Now at level 5, that's a 95% slow. That is nuts. Absolutely nuts. Great ability. Great for catching up to people or running away from them as well. Now Nasus's E, Spirit Fire, it's just a little bit of extra damage per second as well as armor reduction. So you wither somebody, you throw down this E, they're stuck in it, they've got their armor down, you smack them with that Q, guess what? It's doing a hell of a lot more damage. Really hurting them, especially once you've got maybe 100-200 stacks, you're going to start doing some ridiculous damage and being pretty unkillable. Lastly, we got Fury of the Sands. That's his ultimate. He gets big, he gets bonus health, armor, magic resist, and some extra auto attack range. His Q's gonna be halved on the cooldown, so you're going from maybe 2-3 second Q's, they're going down to like 1.5 seconds. It's crazy. You're doing tons of damage, gaining back tons of life, tons of resistances, tons of health. It's just tons of damage. You already know about it. So that is going to be your team fighting move. You're going to run in there with your ulti on, start whacking and bashing people, or maybe you're split pushing, you need to get that tower down faster, you smack that R button, you start bashing on the tower with your Q, whichever is needed in each scenario. So now personally, I like to pick Nasus as a defensive top laner because later on, you're going to be doing damage no matter what. You know, you can either start with that Triforce, maybe a Frozen Gauntlet type deal. Whatever you pick, eventually you're gonna be doing tons of damage, even if you build just full tank afterwards. You're gonna be doing a lot of damage. You're going to be helping your team or taking objectives, and overall, he's gonna be a great champ as long as he lasts about past 20 minutes. He does get hurt pretty hard by these aggressive top laners like we just talked about. Moving on to our last defensive top laner, it is Sion. I personally love Sion because while he is passive, he still does a ton of damage and gets crazy tanky, and is that initiate you need for your team. Starting off Sion's passive, Glory in Death. This is when Sion dies, he comes back to life, all your abilities turn to one ability, and that is Glory in Death, and he just quickly runs a little bit faster at a target, doing a lot more damage. So, you know, maybe you've gotten really close to killing somebody. Oh, they just barely got you. Well, you're gonna come back as a zombie and just hack and slash them to death if you can get in range of them. Really good for getting those close call kills. Moving right along is his Q, Decimating Smash. This is the one you're going to want to be maxing first. It does so much damage and can be a very big CC in team fights. He just holds, you just charge up that axe, and it comes swinging down, knocking people up for at least 2 seconds if it's fully charged. If not, it's more like 1, and if it's even less, it's just a slow. But most of the time, you're going to be able to get that knock-up off, whether it's 1 or 2 seconds. Sion's W is a shield. He shields himself for 6 seconds, but after 3 seconds, he can recast it to detonate the shield. Now, the way this works is it's a very small shield, but any damage Sion takes while the shield is still up, he can then cast again, and the shield will explode, dealing a portion of that damage back to the enemy champion. So if you could time this well enough, you can use some of the damage that they deal to you back onto them. A very interesting and cool ability. Next up, we've got Sion's E. It's a slow. He basically can push a minion, or he can just shout in a direction, and if it hits a champion or if it hits a minion, the minion will be pushed into something and it'll slow, whatever that is. Or just the roar that he does will slow a champion or whomever. If it is a monster or minion, that monster or minion will be knocked back and slowed, as well as a little bit of magic damage. Lastly, the real reason I wanted to put Sion in this video, his ult, Unstoppable Onslaught. This thing is such a great engage tool, and really the reason I like to pick him as a defensive top laner. So if you don't know what it is, Sion will charge in a direction for 8 seconds and is immune to crowd control. So you just keep on running, and you can reactivate it to stop, but you can also just run into a wall or champion to stop it as well. The stun will depend on how long you have charged forward as well as the damage. So if it's point blank, it's going to do less damage, less of a stun, but the more distance you get on it, the bigger the stun, the bigger the damage. So if you can line this up from maybe, a tower or 2 away, it's going to be a heavy hitter as well as a great catch tool, just like your Q. So you're going to send that ult down middle, hit a champion, start winding up that Q. They're going to be CC'd for at least like 3, 4, maybe even 5 seconds, depending on how much you can get off. Great tool. He can suffer a little bit in lane against these aggressive champs, but he does have some dual potential with his Q, his W shield, his E. His kit is really good at defending himself against these aggressive champions, as well as being able to engage for your team later on in the game once laning phase is done. Lastly, we have Jax. So this is our VIP pick. That means I think he's a really great character if you want to learn him, but he definitely is going to take a little more skill, a little more focus, and a little more game knowledge. So moving right along, his passive, Relentless Assault, he just gains attack speed the more he auto-attacks. Stacks up to about 8 times, and it'll fall off every few seconds if you're not auto-attacking, but it does just make him that kind of hyper carry. Moving right on down, we got Jax's Q. It's just a dash. He jumps to a target, deals physical damage. It scales with AD and AP. Really good scaling. It's got 100 AD scaling, 1-for-1 AD scaling, 0.6 AP scaling. But it's good to just get out of situations, jump around, really simple ability. Next, we've got Jax's W. This is the ability you're going to want to be maxing in most situations. There are a few situations where you might want to choose a different ability to max, but W is usually your go-to. Basically, it enhances either your next Q or your next auto with bonus magic damage. It also has a little bit of extra range. Now, Jax's E is a very cool ability. It ends up dodging auto attacks, so he can activate it, lasts about 2 seconds, and at the end, he stuns the player. It is also increased damage for the more auto attacks he takes. So the more autos he dodges and stuff, the more damage it's going to do. And it does a minimum and a maximum amount of damage. Really good for dodging enhanced auto attacks like Renekton's W. Aurelia's Q counts as it. He can dodge Ezreal Qs with it. It's really, really interesting ability. Lastly, the thing that really makes Jax super strong, his ultimate. Not even the active part, just the passive. So on every third auto attack, Jax gets bonus magic damage on his autos. So every third auto at level 6, he is going to get 100 extra damage, and it's going to scale with AP, 0.7 AP scaling. So that is nasty. The active part of his ultimate is just some bonus armor and magic resist. So to just go over again why Jax is my VIP pick. Very strong laner. Can be a lane bully, can play defensive. He has really both play styles. And if you farm well and maybe pick up a couple kills, you will be able to carry your team to victory. The champ does an insane amount of damage, has pretty good CC, pretty good engage. Overall, S+ tier pick, but it does just take a little more skill. That is why he is my VIP pick, and I hope you guys can find some success with these top lane champions.